For decades, one company operated as the absolute ruler of the digital world. If a device processed information, chances were high that a single specific name was etched into its silicon. Look closely at the computing hardware from the early days of the PC revolution. Consumers didn't buy a computer based on the brand of the plastic case. They actively searched for the Intel Inside logo, printed directly onto the hardware, as a guarantee of performance. This created a fully dependent ecosystem. Computer manufacturers required these processors to sell their machines, and software developers wrote operating systems strictly optimized to run on them. That deep integration translated into immense corporate power. The company generated enormous, reliable profits year after year, attracting top engineering talent and operating with an air of absolute invincibility. But winning for that long creates a dangerous psychological blind spot. It breeds the assumption that immense technological leverage is a permanent state of nature, rather than a temporary advantage. The engine driving that long-term advantage was a specific operational strategy, the integrated device manufacturer model. Instead of relying on partners, the company isolated itself. Chip design and manufacturing were contained within a single boundary. This closed loop meant teams dictated the exact timing, quality, and output of every new generation without waiting on third parties. Yet this highly tuned engine developed a fatal flaw. Every factory, every design decision, and every corporate priority became optimized exclusively for the desktop PC market they already dominated. When a massive organization focuses entirely on extracting maximum efficiency from a conquered territory, it inevitably loses sight of expanding frontiers at its borders. By the late 2000s, the computing landscape began expanding aggressively. The defining devices were no longer desktop towers. They were laptops, smartphones, and the server farms powering cloud computing. Look at the sterile environment of a modern fabrication plant. At the exact moment demand was fracturing into new devices, the physical physics of shrinking semiconductors into sub-nanometer scales became exponentially harder. Building a facility capable of manufacturing these new microscopic architectures required tens of billions of dollars and a level of engineering precision that pushed the limits of modern science. Here is where the closed-loop model fractured. The transition to newer manufacturing nodes hit severe technical roadblocks. Their internal schedule slipped, creating massive delays. Because the design and manufacturing divisions were locked together, a factory failure stalled the entire company. Meanwhile, rivals kept executing, pushing new technology to market while the incumbents struggled to fix production lines. In an industry governed by strict physical scaling laws, falling behind on manufacturing by 2 years creates an existential crisis. The competition is suddenly operating with superior materials. For decades, competitors like AMD operated in the background. They were largely viewed as a budget alternative, structurally incapable of matching the output of the industry leader. Then, AMD executed a strategic retreat. They abandoned the capital-intensive physics of fabrication entirely, choosing to focus strictly on silicon design. This strategy required a dedicated partner to handle production. These blank silicon wafers represent the raw output of TSMC, a specialized foundry that manufactures hardware but refuses to compete with its own clients. This decentralized alliance gave designers access to the world's most advanced manufacturing tools without requiring them to build or maintain a single factory. TSMC quietly scaled its operations, becoming the central production hub for an entire network of technology companies, manufacturing processors for Apple, Qualcomm, and NVIDIA. The monolithic corporate model was no longer fighting a single weaker competitor. It was up against a highly specialized, unified global ecosystem moving at peak efficiency. Then the computing requirements shifted again. The arrival of modern machine learning demanded extreme computing power, specifically tailored for training massive models simultaneously. Companies like NVIDIA found their hardware perfectly suited for this moment. Their graphics processors, originally designed for rendering images, were naturally built for the exact kind of parallel computing required by artificial intelligence. Look at these endless server racks. The physical center of the industry rapidly migrated away from personal consumer devices sitting on desks, moving directly into sprawling data centers focused on cloud computing. The legacy market leader remained a massive, profitable entity, but the defining edge of technological progress had simply relocated outside of their territory. Despite these massive structural shifts, the established giant is far from dead. They still possess world-class engineering teams, deep financial reserves, and immense global infrastructure. To survive, they are currently executing a high-stakes pivot, attempting to build a commercial foundry business of their own to serve the broader market. This plan requires opening their factory doors to the outside world, inviting external designers and potentially direct rivals to manufacture hardware on their assembly lines. This effort represents a total, painful dismantling of the exact business model that originally made them untouchable. The modern semiconductor industry is now deeply fragmented, highly specialized, and ruthlessly competitive at every individual layer of production. The global market evolved faster than a heavily optimized corporate strategy could adapt, rendering the existing desktop monopoly obsolete. When markets shift, manufacturing logic scales up, and new technologies demand different hardware, standing still and resting on past success becomes indistinguishable from moving backward. Ultimately, the organizations that survive decades of technological progress are the ones willing to dismantle their successful models before the market does it for them.